Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Inworld Review. If you're watching us live, we're a little bit late today. The usual technical problems, but hopefully we've got rid of them now. If our lips aren't moving, well, that is tough. There seem to be some unexplained problems these days getting various participants' lips to move. Anyway, I'm Mal Burns, and I'm here to host the proceedings. This is the Inworld Review, where it is the 21st of September of the year 2014, in the organic world at least. Who knows what year it is in the virtual expanse. And we're broadcasting live from Chilbo in the platform called Second Life, and we're brought to you in association with AView TV. This program looks at both Second Life, but also the many other open simulator platforms, the Hypergrid, and everything really that makes up what we call the metaverse. We call it the metaverse because there was a novel by Neil Stephenson called Snow Crash many years ago, and he invented the phrase, and we've all kind of adopted it, even though his vision wasn't quite the vision that we're talking about today. Anyway, I'm going to have some news headlines, but before then, I'll just introduce you to the folks in the studio with me. As ever, to my left, we have my co-host, Tara Yates. Hi there, Tara.
Howdy, Mel.
And to my right, my other co-host, Maria Koroloff. Hi there, Maria.
Hi there, Mal. Always great to be here.
Meta Maria. Sorry.
I once met a girl.
I once met a girl called Meta Maria. Yes, indeed. If you follow the blogs and things, you will often see little tweets and things from Meta Maria, otherwise known as Hypergrid Business when it's trying to be formal. And we're also joined by, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to be calling her, Lynn, but she is better known in World in Second Life and I believe elsewhere under her sort of avatar handle, Wisdomseeker. So, hi, Lynn.
Hi, also known as Liss in World.
Liss.
Liss like Miss.
Okay. Well, it remains to be seen. I get very confused with names. I'll probably cover up half a dozen variations in the course of the conversation, but everybody expects that of me anyway. I've got Lynn in front of me here, so it's a little bit easier. Lynn's going to talk to us a bit about some projects she's involved in a little while, and hopefully she'll be able to hang around for some of the general conversation afterwards as well, the open-ended stuff. But we may be losing Lynn shortly before the end of the show. Time will tell. Time will tell as we carry on here. So, to the more immediate headlines. In all the kerfuffle, of course, I'm very ill prepared here. But I think one of the main things, looking at my own Twitter feed in the last... I haven't opened the exact links here yet, so I might do some of that for when we come back to this. The Oculus Connect event is happening somewhere in the States at the moment, and I'm sure Maria can give us more on this when it comes. But apparently they're launching their Oculus platform. Instead of Oculus Share, it's going to be Oculus Platform, and they're going to have sort of virtual reality apps on their own platform. And the Oculus executives have been discussing the future. Gosh, golly. And they're talking about touch here, PAL, around the virtual world, and they're focused on building a virtual world just as much as they are, of course, building the contraptions to actually view their 360 world in. And something that came as a surprise to me is that they've actually introduced at this very same event, and typically I can't find it. Oh, yes, here it is. They've followed up the famous DK2, which they've been distributing. It's sort of the second developer kit of Oculus Rift headset, and with yet another new headset already, and this one's called Crescent Bay. And I must say, I've seen photographs of it, and it's beginning to look like something slightly different from Oculus Rift, not in principle, but just in terms of design. And it does look to me like it's got built-in headphones too, which I think will be a major relief for some people who have been trying to figure out how to put headphones underneath their Oculus contraption, etc. Lots of big news there, and I'm going to actually dig it. Most of the links actually come from the Road to VR blog, but I will get around to finding you a couple of actual links to put in chat later. The other big news on the technology front for virtual reality is that NVIDIA are working on new graphics cards that are actually designed for not so much high-performance 3D games, but guess what? High-performance virtual reality rendering. And they have actually put something online that I've been seen in the social networks a few days ago. And the catch line here is proof that the moon landing wasn't a hoax. What they've actually done is they've created a virtual environment with new graphics technology, and it has a single light source, and all the other light sources are automatically calculated from the single light source, as opposed to the way you have multiple light sources at the moment, I believe. And they've recreated in a sort of virtual environment the moon landing, and they've apparently there've been lots of questions over the years about, oh, it was fate. There wouldn't have been any light coming from that direction in the photograph, and NASA and people have been a problem to explain it, saying, well, it's real. We really did land there, but we don't know quite what the light is either. And of course, it's all down to reflections of the reflective spacesuits, where the light on, I think it's Neil Armstrong's face, actually comes from Buzz Aldrin's suit, and things like that. And basically, NVIDIA have actually recreated this as an entire 3D environment, down to the little bit of detail and texture properties, and literally proved that they've gone and taken the same photograph and by literally moving into position, and sure enough, all the lights that we saw there really were there. So for those disbelievers out there, NVIDIA have just proved you wrong. But it was an interesting example, because it's clearly meant to demonstrate the power of the new graphics chips that they're working on, and it certainly did look good from what I saw of it. Right. Oh, I'm sorry here. It looks like our camera has dropped for those of you live. I'm going to try and cue it and put it back on again. Hopefully it will bloody well stay there this time. It means I've got to restart the recording. Sorry, folks. I'm running the channel here at the same time. Hopefully it's going to come back on. Yes, there we are. For those of you watching live, sorry about that. Apparently I disappeared for a second, but I am now, hopefully, back on live, and hopefully I will stay here. We should not really be dropping like we are. Right, so that was the news from NVIDIA, of course. Yes, yes, my links are doing their usual thing of not opening properly. I have one here. The future of travel has arrived. Virtual reality beach vacations. Yeah, you want to you go to a hotel and they put you in the beach, even though there's no beach for miles around, kind of thing. Right, I'm going to try and get these links actually open, and keep an eye on the channel here too, just to make sure we're staying on air. And we got a backup recording anyway. So meanwhile, I'm actually just going to hand you straight over to Tara now, if she will, for her take on the week. So over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mel. And I think my take on the week is fairly small this week. Oh. But this week I am going to attempt to start off with my show and tell item, and hopefully our Key has managed to pick up that in the in his camera angles. I can't guarantee he has, but over on stage left, to the left of the two Firestorm kitties who have taken up residence together now, is one more item from this round of the the arcade gotcha event, and this is from one of my, I think must be one of my favorite designers, because he's quirky and his work is exceptional in detail. And this is Walton F. Wainwright, and his outfit is called Contraption. And those of you who have watched the show regularly might recall here, 6 or 9 months ago, that there was a contraption item that was in the Arcade Gotcha series that was a music machine, and had multiple moving parts and was quite fascinating. Well, So is this rounds. It's sort of a hurdy-gurdy, but if you look at it closely, for starters, it's got a little flap that moves up and down, and it's got a wheel in the back that moves. But if you zoom in close on the what's the front of it, you will see it's got moving parts on hitting the little hammers on the little strings like a piano inside. It's just brilliant. I mean, for 50 lindens.
Oh boy!
And the music in these is all original. It's all original compositions. I have the sound completely turned down on this one, so it's only good as a visual, just to avoid adding extra complication to a session where we've been fighting technical gremlins for 20 minutes. But anyway, this is actually one of the rares, and its claim to being a rare is that it's on a little cart with wheels. The wheels don't turn. At least I haven't tried to push it, but there are several others, and they all have lift. The little lid lifts up, and and the keys move. So anyway, that's Gotcha Arcade. Still going on, I think, through the end of the month. That definitely an easy place to drop a few lindens on things that are fun, and hope that you get the one you want. I finally gave up on the breathing puppy because it appears that I'm not supposed to have the breathing puppy. I have a few too many of the other items now, including duplicates, and I've given up. Anyhow, I was going to say, Mel, the Oculus Connect conference was yesterday and Friday, and that was very specifically a developers conference. And the good news is, if you want to catch replays, they are going to have those available before too long. I'm not sure how soon, but they definitely are going to make those available for viewing and listening. And they had over 1,000 developers present, which I think is just a little bit of an indicator of the interest level in Oculus going on. And another little note on the audio piece. They have licensed Real Space 3D's audio technology, which was developed over 10 years ago based on technology from the University of Maryland. Their Real Space 3D's tech enables high-fidelity VR audio. You'll love this, for the geeks in the crowd, with a combination of HRTF spatialization and integrated reverberation algorithms. Say that 4 times fast.
No, thank you. But I take the point.
I won't attempt to translate. Anyway, it's hot and cool, so you can take it either way. Anyway, in the world of Second Life, a little item from Hamlet's blog, Inmouth, a beautiful, if ungodly horror, sim-wide tribute to the works of H.P. Lovecraft is in jeopardy. The person who has been funding the tier on that has said he can't afford to continue doing so, and so there's a call gone out for angels to come forward who want to keep the sim going. And I hit New World Notes, Hamlet's blog, for details on that, or to follow a link to go to the sim and visit it if you are a Lovecraft fan.
I believe there is a fundraiser to try and save that, and might be.
Oh, I'm sure there's stuff going on because the call has gone out, and I haven't seen any particulars beyond what I just saw this morning on Hamlet's blog about that, so I just wanted to share it. Let's see, 2 benefit events going on at the moment of note. Home and Garden Expo is started this week and runs through this coming week, which is kind of the first of the series of events that take place in Second Life that all help support Relay for Life. And if you type in Home Expo to search in the Inworld map, you'll come up with the multiple sims. It's 9 sims plus the RFL sim on one side. And the other one is Clockwork Spiral. And that is da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And of course, I'm supposed to have this written down, but my notes are not complete. That is a benefit. And it is a benefit for, come on, let's get there. Oh, I love it.
I think it's the Kidney Foundation.
Kidney Foundation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Kidney Foundation. And the sim for that is Cursed, CURSED sim. And that runs.
Hardly an appropriate name, but never mind.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so that's another one to check out. The build looks really cool. So those are a couple of things. And there's another gotcha event that caught my attention, and I haven't had a chance to check it out, that's going on. This is Custom 9, KUSTOM 9, number 9. That is a pretty high quality creator contributions. Also maybe worthwhile if you're into such things. And that is all I have. So I'm going to toss it back to you, Mel, on that note.
Well, thank you, Sarah, he says, trying to find his camera. Right, here I am, indeed, on my own camera. Thanks for that. I also gather that we have the imminent launch again for Relay for Life of not the Home and Garden exhibition, but Fashion for Life is about to launch as well. Obviously, this is one where all the fashionistas get together and sell exotic costumes for the American Cancer Society. And yeah, very few things. Another link I do have, in fact, I'll get this link to you now because, believe it or not, my browser has opened a tab, even if it seems to be unwilling to copy the address. This is a good old day, isn't it? Right. This Gwyneth Llewellyn, whose blog she's known for producing very long blogs, not so much in recent times, but she did put up one this week, and she is revisiting. Right. I think there was a hitch in Skype call there. Hopefully, we're okay with this. Right, is my voice coming over Skype? That is the question. Yes, we seem to be okay. So I don't know what was going on there. This is revisiting the Beginner's Guide to Second Life. Apparently she wrote various essays in the cars over a period of time, which was the Beginner's Guide to Second Life. And I gather she's reworking the content and going to put it online as an ebook that you can get on your phone, tablet, e-reader, etc. So, in fact, it has a link. Get it now on Google Play or download on ebooks. And thank you, Tara. She's put the link into the channel chat, so you can follow that link to get a bit more information about that. And what else do we have here? As usual, so many of my links go back to this place called Hypergrid Business, about which we will hear shortly. But there's an article here in the Verge about something called Air VR. And I'm sure Maria will tell us a little bit more about this as we go along, but I'll give you the link to the Verge article. You can now attach your iPad directly to your face to experience virtual reality. Isn't that great? Apparently, it's only the iPad mini that fits, but it's still an iPad. So just stick your iPad on your face. No, you don't need to put any blue tack on your nose. It's something else. And you can go into a virtual world. And that's link I put through just now is an article at The Verge telling us about that. So over to Maria. Clearly, unlike last week, there is quite a bit of sort of surfing news this week. We have the OS Grid fundraising effort that Third Rock are going through. We have all this Oculus stuff. We have the Avatar. Oh crumbs! I've forgotten their name already. It's open here somewhere. Hangouts or whatever they're called. It's a social network that here we are celebrating. Oh, sorry, this is an Arapace blog I've got here. Avatar Social Network is celebrating 1 year, just 1 year, believe it or not. 3,000 members, 70,000 posts, and 12,000 friendships. And I'll give you an hour pay's little run up of all that in the links here. So that's an hour pay's blog. So I don't think that was one that was for Hypergrid Business. But we've got all the other thing. And, of course, the big news, I was trying to get him here today because he was obviously on the show a few weeks ago, was Timothy's, well, I should say the former CEO of Cetamax. Yes, Cetamax, with all their bargain offers, have gone into new ownership. So that, I think, is a bit of a highlight too. So without further ado, I've probably forgotten a whole lot of stuff, but I'll get the news headlines off Maria first, and we'll sort of stick to the headlines, and then come after we've had another chat about something, we'll then come back to sort of discuss those in detail. So over to you, Maria.
Okay, so I'll give you the top 5 things right away. The stats report came out on Monday, and there's some news in there as well, buried in there, including the Avatar social network announcement. So we can go through that in detail when we come back. Zetamex has a new CEO. The company's been sold. Timothy will stay on in an active role for a little while as a CEO, as acting CEO, and then will transfer to a slightly less demanding role in December. And they're raising their prices a little bit. The $3 regions are now $5. So not a big increase, but enough for them to continue the service and also to donate money to OS Grid and Metropolis, because they plan to, for every region that they connect to those grids, they will make a donation to the grids they connect to, which leads us to the donation thing you mentioned. Third Rock Grid is leading this, but a lot of people have jumped on to get donations to OS Grid to help them get back on track. And OS Grid has released some information about what's been happening there, and I can talk about that in more detail as well. The biggest latest things is, which haven't made Hypergrid Business just yet, but are about to later on today. Inworld is back up thanks to help from Sky Life Grid. So they found somebody new to help them get their technology up. And they're back up. Their website's back up.
How much more technologies does it take to operate a yo-yo?
Actually, it takes, as you can see from the OS Grid example, especially with a larger grid, it is tricky to do this. So don't be so quick to think just because 200 some grids are able to run without any problems, that is something easy for anybody to do. That just like running a website. Websites have problems all the time because it is tricky to keep something like this going. There's a lot of moving parts that you have to be aware of. And the other news that, again, I haven't posted this yet, this is brand new for our readers, is that there's a new low-cost leader in OpenSIM. So Zetamex is losing its position as the cheapest provider.
Oh.
You can go to the Great Canadian Grid and get a 15,000 prim region for $5 Canadian, which is $4.50 US. So right now, and they're Hypergrid enabled, free uploads, the Inworld currency. There could be community grid. So for $4.50 US a month, 15,000 prims, and then they've little small upgrades if you want more prims. So definitely check this out if you want, if you're Canadian, or if you like Canadians, and or you like low prices.
Yeah.
They also offer free homestead plots if you want something smaller than a whole region, and they offer free stores for merchants. So it looks like they're putting their money where their grid is and investing in like kind of long-term growth of this. So very interesting. Check that out. And so over to you guys.
Okay, that's fascinating. So yet another cheap grid to check out. Okay, fine, right. Well, Yeah, we'll come back to all that. I think the time now is to bring Lynn into the discussion. And once again, I'll welcome Lynn, otherwise known as,
Thank you.
my old
Wisdom seeker is fine.
Wisdom seeker. I know. You could tell how flustered I am today by our start. I'm sort of not quite got to grips with everything yet, including the fact that when I switched to your camera, it seems our chairs have moved. We're not in the right place anymore. Anyway, welcome to the show. Now, a couple of weeks ago, or sometime in the last couple of weeks, I loved it when I invited you on the show and said, "Oh, damn, I can't hypergrid from Avacon." But even though I was actually talking to you in Second Life at the time, but that says something, you can't get back into Second Life from the hypergrid. But in fact, it was in Second Life. You did a presentation recently as part of the Metaverse series that Avacon are doing, and we went over to your the sim where you've got the whole brain enterprise. What's the full name of that? Whole brain health. Whole brain health, right.
Yes.
So you've got that based on the sim there, and you've also got buildings that feature links and teleports for I won't say newbies, but people looking for particular things, I think is more the gist of it, isn't it?
It's a very well organized hub that takes you out to well-vetted places in Second Life. And that's hard for people to find a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, of course, bridging the big gap here, as it were, is, of course, you are involved with Avacon. And as a consequence, I presume you're involved in the conference coming up in November.
That's absolutely right.
And therefore, you're very familiar with OpenSim and the hypergrid. Do you have any, is there an open brain availability on OpenSim at all, or is that restricted to Second Life at the moment?
Right now, the sim I have, which is called Inspiration Island, and it's part of the Rockcliffe Consortium, actually.
Yeah.
It was very wonderful that we were able to join them. So I could actually afford a full sim here. Is the only one that's complete. And actually, we're still working on that. But my vision really is to expand this out into the OpenSim area. And I have already do have a presence of some sort in Inworlds and Kitely, and I have actually a space on Avacon Grid. So I see the metaverse as a place, a way to expand or to do very specific kinds of things that I hope to do in the future.
Well, great. Well, let's go back to the roots of this, not so much where you are, which is everywhere or potentially everywhere by the sound of it, but the actual motivation for these two aspects of it. One, the central hub, and two, maybe tell us more about the whole brain enterprise itself. In overview, obviously we haven't got shots to show people, but just tell us, maybe tell us what's there and
let me explain.
Means, because you're heavily involved in the meditation side of it and things too, aren't you? So it's the disciplines.
Well, it is. Let me start by saying that when I came into Second Life, I came in with the idea that I would like to connect the world outside, which you call the organic world, I call it Outworld, with the world in Second Life, because I saw it had so much potential for people. I'm particularly interested in people over the age of 50, being one of them myself.
Yeah. I think we all are around here. I don't know about
and I became interested in the whole issue of how to promote brain health, how to have people be able to keep healthy, to stay healthy, because there's so many projections about the effects of dementia on future populations if we don't do something. And a lot of the research that I base what I'm doing here on is finding out that lifestyle choices you make every day in your life can make a difference in whether you can stave off some of the difficulties, some of the frailties, and so on as you get older. So I think it's well worth learning about. And here you can not only learn about those what research is telling us, but you can actually practice a lot of the things that they're suggesting you do. So I built my place to be something that would be interesting to people, fun to be in, and would also serve this other purpose of giving people information and also giving them real experiences. And I'm very proud to say that I have about 20 people that I host on my sim who do all kinds of programs. And I have about almost 20 sites on the sim that all give people an opportunity. Some are programs, but some are just activities you can actually do on the sim that are directly based on the research into what constitutes good brain health.
Great. I mean, I know when we visited you, we went off for a little walk at one point, which is sort of, we were led down the various paths and things to see all the activities.
Right.
And there's lots of them, there really are.
Right, and we keep adding to them. The newest one, I just want to say, is called the Center of the Inventive Mind. I was thinking of this when Tara was speaking because one of the functions of the center is to take you to various kinds of museums and centers around the world that are focused on inventions and innovations. And the second thing is to actually highlight and exhibit some of the creations that are made here in Second Life that are innovative. So I'm very interested in anybody who would like to exhibit in that space to contact me.
For sure. Well, we'll give out. Well, actually, let's do it now. If give out, if you will, over the air, any contact information you want to give people if interested.
Okay, is that in Skype?
No, if you well, yes, you can put it there, and we'll copy it to the channel. But if you just read it out over the air too, people will.
Okay, my email is very simple. It's the name wisdomseekersmeetinghouse@gmail.com.
wisdomseekersmeetinghouse@gmail.com. Fine.
.com.
Right.
That's the best way to reach me.
Right. Well, obviously open invitation here too, by the way, to Tara and Maria if they have any questions for you. But meanwhile, tell me about the hub itself as well, which I sort of think of as separate, but obviously they are linked. Being in the same place. The idea about the hub and the destinations.
Everything on my sim is something I've invited people to come and build on the parcels and to hold their programs because I see them. Actually, I see the sim as a giant brain, and all these things are like the neuronal pathways in your own brain. So the hub was created actually by Ewan Bonham, who is a professor of social work in real life and brings his students into Second Life to my sim. And it provides his students with a way of exploring Second Life. It's filled with links to sims that they have actually visited. They've interviewed the owners of the sims. And in these interviews, they've highlighted what the sims' purposes are. And of course, you have LMs to the sims too. So you can go in there, you can read about the sim, you can decide you want to visit it, and you can go right from our place out to that sim and then come back.
Great. It's funny when we're broadcasting a place called the Meta Hub, actually, which is it takes its name from when I first arrived in Second Life, and I was more news focused. But I have screens up all over the place here, with on the print versions of newspapers and slideshows that had links in them to destinations. And I thought, there's no central hub for this. But of course, little did I know at the time there was plenty of other places. But the idea of having that central place really appealed to me. It seems like you've got a similar approach there,
they have over 100 sims that you can go to from our sim. So they've done a lot of work. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work to create that.
And are all of those have some kind of direct connection with the whole brain concept and activities and that sort of thing?
most of them, but he's really interested in looking at communities in Second Life. And of course, the whole idea of communities is actually related to brain health, because one of the things that's important is for people to have a lot of positive social connections and to be very engaged. So this really allows people to find what would engage them out in the SL metaverse or universe.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, is chillbearing here included? No, I'm just thinking this is one of the original community sims, and of course it was started by Flip too, who you know well. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I would say at this point, the community part of Chillbo has been pretty much in
limbo.
Yeah, in the realms of history, since we had to, there were changes that took place that just.
Well, you know what they found when you and Starlight were doing this, setting this up, they found that when they tried to contact a lot of the Sims, many of the Sims had closed, unfortunately, and some of them had no contact person anymore. And they really did want to have a person who would, when people came, would come to meet them. So they probably tried to contact someone here, and perhaps they couldn't find someone. But I'll ask them. They're always looking for new ones.
well, I wouldn't call Chillbo an active community at this point. I mean, it's still a presence as far as a place is concerned, but it's we had monthly meetings and managed a number of events and one thing and another, but we had to do a change in ownership. We had been set up with a large scale group, and the originators had to pull out. So we ended up basically shifting away. We still have a core of land and some buildings that are group owned, but we had to divest, and so several of us became private owners of chunks of Chillbo. But keeping an online community going over time is a real challenge. I know from personal experience.
Yeah, I've been here only 2 years, a little over 2 years, so I'm really new, but I've heard a lot about the history here, and it's been very interesting to see the shifts going on and people coming back now, that sort of thing. I do want to say one more thing, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
That one of the other purposes I have in what I'm doing is to connect the world outside and Second Life, because I work a lot with professionals in the field of aging and coaching, and I would really like to bring many of those into Second Life, show them what's available here for their clients, and have them bring their clients in. So that is really a part of the mission that I have, and I call that the Wise Brain Project, because the Wise Brain keeps growing, and our sim is all about constantly stimulating your brain in various ways.
I think so. It's like broadcasting, if people watch on the web and never come into a virtual world, if only one of them one day, 1 out of 10 says, oh, I'll go and investigate that, and you've made a kill kind of thing. It's funny because connecting Maria into this, in fact, as well as Hypergrid Business, Maria here has a site called Hyperia, which is, again, it's back to this wonderful idea of a hub. Now, in a hub, destinations, as you say, change all the while. So whoever's managing it, so to speak, has to keep an eye on the ones going and the new ones coming. But Maria's hub is literally the same thing for OpenSim. It's more, it lists more grids and their specialities, doesn't it, Maria, than exact destinations within a particular grid. Though I guess it does both.
It lists regions.
Yeah.
So that you can, so it shows what's on a particular region. And I think the reason is because OpenSim land is so inexpensive that anybody who wants to have a particular destination can have a full region for that destination. And it makes it easier to do backups and restores and traffic. You're not fighting for traffic with another popular destination in the same region. So there's benefits of doing it that way. And like I said, the prices are so low that there's no reason not to. And so you would have the address would be something like hg.osgrid:80 : the name of the region. So it's very easy to get people in, very easy, much more easy to remember the address too, because you're just going to the region, you're landing in the center. So we have a few hundred destinations listed right now, and the domain is hyperica.com.
Right. Now, there's something else you, Maria, had in your blog this week. It wasn't written by you, actually. Yandri Berger had a post called Virtual Characters Help Build Real Stories. And we've actually covered this a few times in recent weeks. This is actually Nara Malone of Nara's Nuke. But it suddenly occurred to me that, we've got a connection here because... like what Lynn was just saying, this is her venture. It's for writers, but it is very much a venture about bringing people from the organic world, as it were, into the real world. She is in touch with real world writers and, encourages them to come in and take a little pass on her sim and then come to meetings where authors meet. And, using the virtual world as an extension of real life, as a, international meeting place, so to speak. And it seems to me, Lynn, that, there's a correlation there between that and your ambitions too.
Exactly, and I think the idea of having a hub for the hypergrid is wonderful, because that would be helpful to me, for example, to be able to, easily direct people to specific kinds of places.
We currently have a big rebuilding project going on. It's been ongoing for the whole summer. We currently have a new end date of end of this month. And what it is, it's a total rebuild of the hub as in a kind of Mediterranean style, and it will have all the gates to the most popular destination as blam gates. So you just walk right through it, and it takes you there. And it will also have a little bit of meeting space and a couple of little preview stores for hypergrid travelers, like where you could pick up your own gates, for example, to set up. And we also have it set up so that now Hyperica it runs on the latest version of OpenSim, so there's no limits to where you can travel. There's no distance limits. But people who have older versions of OpenSim might have distance limits. So we have a Hyperica lower and a Hyperica upper jumping off points. And the way they're supposed to work is when you land on there, it automatically takes you to a central hub, no matter where you come from. So now that's been iffy in terms of how well that's been working. So that's one of the other things we're trying to test and refine and make it better. So hopefully once we're done with the redesign, we're done with the new gates, we're done with the jumping regions, everything will be up and working for good. So I got all my fingers crossed. I'm knocking on wood that this will actually work.
I actually find the concept of this. I mean, you are familiar, of course, Lynn, with the hypergrid and the concept of just teleporting across grids. So with these, we teleport destinations at the moment. But whether it's internal in Second Life or indeed on the hypergrid, this system of the hubs actually reminds me a lot of the way the web is structured. You might go to a particular site and they provide links to a dozen other sites that are related to them. And you go to one of those other sites, and that site in turn probably takes you back, if you want, to the site you've been on. But more importantly, it will have a different selection of links. So, you might be interested in books and go to book hubs. But then when you get to a book hub, it might have a specific interest in science fiction, and it points you to book hubs that are science fiction. And then you get to one of those, and it has links that point you to sims which are renditions of works by science fiction authors or something. So you've got this continuous chain. It's not a repetitive circle. It's like an ever-spreading out web. So, you can take key locations, investigate them. And the nice thing is that you might go from one hub to something that's got another hub which has more choices, and another hub that has more choices still. And as you gradually drill into the subject matter or your own particular interests. So, I think it's a nice sort of metaphor, and it's really needed. One of the problems with the hypergrid, and many people will say with Second Life too, is that search doesn't work, or there isn't any search. How do we get to these things? And I often think that the personal recommendations of somebody that builds a hub are possibly going to be more useful in the end than search, because they've obviously got to get you to their hub because you have a particular interest. But once you're there, hopefully they just provide the destinations, like a whole series of airports around the world that you can connect from one to the other to get where you really want to go.
Well, I got my own theory on search, and Hyperica we're working on that too, is that you want to go where people go. You don't want to, it's nice to go to a museum and visit it, but it's much better to go to the museum on an opening night of a new exhibit, right? So what we have on Hyperica in the right-hand sidebar is all the calendars from all the hypergrid-enabled grids that have calendars available in iCal form. So this is Kitely, this is whoever publishes the calendar that we get a feed from, we can link it in. And we can also add in individual events as well. I'm working on getting that functionality finalized. So if you have a grid with a calendar, set it up so you have an iCal export of the calendar available. If you use Google Calendar, which I highly, highly recommend, because people can easily subscribe to Google Calendars. They're free. You can embed them in your website. They're really easy to use. They do all the conversions for the time zones for you. Really, you cannot get a better calendar right now than the Google Calendar. And Google Calendar has an automatic subscribe button on it. So if you have a Google Calendar, I can automatically pull it in. So when you go to Hyperica.com, you will see on the right all the events happening today, right now, that you can go to. And of course, it's searchable. And when you search for event names, they usually make sense. Whereas when you search for by region description or by region items, everything's called primitive. There's very little useful information there. Whereas events typically have very useful information in them, because people come to the events, so they're usually very descriptive.
They're hard. They're hard to set up, but for sure in Second Life. So I also want to say we have two different kinds of Google Calendars on our sim. So you're right.
All right. So send them to me. It's Maria@hypergridbusiness.com. So today, for example, on the Hypergrid, you can go to a coffee clutch in Metropolis. You can get Blender lessons on Littlefield. You can go to social dance on Kitely, a quiz game on Littlefield, or there's a hangout at Stonehaven. And then tomorrow there's Songs of the Sea, a poetry reading, and there's a bondage hangout. Okay.
Right, stop right there. In other words, there is genuinely a bit of anything.
All sorts of stuff happening, yes.
Something for everybody.
Right, okay. No, now this is typical. I had another question for you, Lynn. I'm so busy with my camera, I forgot what it was.
This is really fascinating.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, I know what it was, because this opens up general conversation, and we'll come back anyway. I'm thinking of your whole brain health thing more than anything else here. Places to... I forget whether you've got them, but there's like places where you can, put your avatar on an exercise bike, and, according to studies, they tell you that it sort of makes you fit because your mind it feels like you're exercising and things. And meditation, obviously, is another thing, or swimming. But, part of the immersive environment is almost therapeutic in itself. But something we've often discussed on this show and questioned is, Virtual spaces, immersive spaces are really all about immersion. And, we're in a world where, at the moment at least, everybody's latching onto mobile tech, and more importantly, short burst communication. People aren't really, they're skimming over the surface. They're gossiping. They're maybe referencing the news, but nobody talks too deeply about it. We're losing aspects of immersion because we've got all this ready-made technology where you want to move on to an IM to somebody else every 30 seconds. And I've even mentioned the fast book. But part of the allure of virtual worlds and virtual spaces is that they can facilitate what I think will be a welcome return to immersion. And I'm sort of, we'll get everybody involved here, but, particularly your thoughts on this, because obviously the very nature of the whole brain thing is, you've got a target demographic, I know, but it really is about bringing people in and immersing them, but not just educating them or, providing a facility for them, but, say, well, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to focus. It's okay to be here and do these things, which is not something you can easily do on the web these days. People don't want to linger around and read and stuff like that even. They want to keep rushing all over the place. So do you feel that's a really essential part of life that we're beginning to miss, that virtual worlds like I reckon can offer?
For me, yes. One of the things I thought about this is that many people who are over 50, for example, do find it difficult sometimes. I've talked to many people. It's amazing how many people here who are doing extremely creative things are over 50. In fact, over 70. It's really interesting to see. And there are people who live isolated from other people. Sometimes, the locations are way out in the country. Some of them can't leave their houses for other reasons. Some have bad weather and that sort of thing. So they really find that being able to come in world helps them connect and avoid loneliness, which I think is one of the malaises of the current world, actually, with some of the things you're talking about. People can be sort of pseudo-connected. In Second Life, I think you really are connected with other people in a can be a very deep way, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of I see it as one of the great assets of this world. There are real people behind the avatars,
I think that's something a lot of people who may be watching this program or have never been in virtual worlds don't fully understand. They look at superficial graphics and things and think, oh God, there's some talking cartoons on my screen. They don't actually realize the full implications of the personalities that are driving all the avatars, as the expression goes. And they don't sort of see it as a kind of place where they can just dive in and be themselves. And equally, I know people, I'm in the over 50 bracket, I hasten to add, but, my peers who, some of them in the organic world will just take one look at what I'm doing and think, whoa, I don't understand that. And others will come in once and they'll try it. Some people are genuinely scared of the immersion, which I think is a whole different problem because, it's like something they can't control and they're a bit scared of.
I've heard that from people, by the way. You're right.
Yeah. Other people will really embrace it because they'll see, well, I'm on my own here. And then suddenly you're surrounded by people and you've got a whole social network around you again.
One of the things...
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, one of the things I've done is I've founded the community of creative elders here about 6 months ago for people over 50. And one of our goals, I had a lot of people come to the opening meetings. A lot of people showed an interest in becoming buddies or mentors for new people coming in, especially older people. And I think that's a key, to have somebody who kind of takes your hand. Someone did that with me when I came in, and it made all the difference.
Yeah, I think when I came in, I met a couple of women, typically, very quickly, who were guiding me around and doing this. But I think they were actually quite new themselves, and I forget what ages they were. I don't think that came into it. But, it was the hand-holding thing. And I've often felt, when I've invited people from the organic world, as it were, to try it out for the first time, I said, sign up, just log in, and as soon as you're there, tell me what your avatar name is. I'll friend you and I'll TP you over to my place, because the guiding hand,
Right.
is more valuable than anything. Other people will actually get frightened and lost and they won't understand what's happening. And, then you need to have a guiding hand, I think. And my memory is absolutely appalling when it comes to the specifics. So this is really embarrassing. Tara can probably remember, but I got the feeling I met Tara in a club called the Old Farts Club.
Oh, yes.
It was actually spelt with a PH, by the way. But and I forget how I gravitated there, and I'm not sure how Tara did or whatever. But we're within a similar age range and stuff, and we met there and got talking, and we're best friends. And it wouldn't have happened had it not been for that venue. So I know when you just said you started up the Elders Club, I'm saying, is this a group I can join?
You definitely can.
Oh, right. Well, maybe give us that as well. And just tell us what the name of the group is again.
Well, I actually invite people in because once they're in, I allow them to send notices. But it's called the Community of Creative Elders.
Nice one. I think I actually tend to avoid joining groups because I never have any, but I think that's one I'd like to be a member of, actually. So maybe you'll invite me.
Definitely. All you have to do is ask me, and I invite. There's also a subscription board right at our meeting place on our sim. You just want to subscribe to it, so you have two different ways of being involved in it. But I do agree with you that having other people help you, and we're trying now, this group, to come up with a good way of bringing people in so they don't get overwhelmed. And it's interesting, I find sometimes professionals, because I said I'd like to bring professionals in particularly, they find it more difficult because there's a big learning curve, as you know. And I'd be interested to know from you, Maria, whether you feel that OpenSim has less of a learning curve in some way. But they get very embarrassed because they feel they're not getting it fast, and they should,
I think that possibly comes down to the nature of the modern world and professions. Take, a 40 or 50-year-old, therapist of some sort. They've probably gravitated into their area of speciality over the course of their life, and they've sort of settled into sort of rhythms. And when they meet a client, there is that kind of professional boundary, the structure of, maybe they're behind their desk and the client's on the couch or something like that. And there's an attitude where there's a sense of remove, because one is being objective and the other is being subjective. And there's a formality to all that. And the moment they see a virtual world, all the formality seems to go out the window, and they think, how on earth am I going to cope with this? So it's more possibly a case of the ingrained methods of practice that aren't, and, coming to terms with the fact that the almost anarchic nature of the virtual world is sometimes a bit disruptive in that sense.
I think it's the technology here, because people here you have to be pretty up on the technology to feel comfortable here, and many of them aren't. That's a big divide.
Yeah, there's even with good instruction. I mean, there's some basic things, certainly, like learning how to move around and the very basic, how to start an IM, how to open a box, that are relatively straightforward. But as soon as you get beyond that, you're dealing with 3D, and 3D is, it adds many complexities above and beyond navigating web pages or using business software or any of that.
Exactly.
So, and even I'm thinking back of when I joined Second Life, and I immediately recognized the fact that the level of complexity was many levels above a typical software kind of learning curve. And I have, in my software career, I'm something of a geek, and I've done a lot of techie stuff, and have mastered, MIDI music generation, which is has many levels of complexity, and graphic software and Photoshop and all those things. And even with all that background, there were a whole bunch of things I had to figure out how to do. Now I took an interest in building right away, so that all the
Yeah, forced upon you.
is a sufficiently dumbed down way to teach anybody Second Life or OpenSim for that matter.
I mean, I was the same, but I lived in, there was stage design and stuff like that, so elements of 3D, but 3D art programs and things had almost sort of slipped me by. I was in a 2D world when I came to Second Life, so the notion of all the angles and the notion of sort of manipulating 3D objects was, especially as it wasn't clay or plasticine, was, quite a task to come to grips with. But it's almost back to the issue of the lightweight viewer, where you can visit and partake, and then a heavyweight viewer where you can create. Sort of it isn't too hard to learn to push your arrow key back and forward, and to learn to right click and sit. But beyond that, it certainly is a gradual learning curve, and people explore that curve a different way depending on what they're interested in. But Maria, you about to say something? Oops, have we lost Maria?
Is our voice okay?
I'm
not hearing Maria's voice on Skype.
Am I
she
here?
started something.
Oh yes,
Okay.
yes, you're there now. Yeah, okay, one of those glitches.
I had turned on all the mics. I had turned off everywhere while I was coughing.
Oh, fair enough.
Kindly briefly had, way back when it started, a thing where you go to their website, you log in with Facebook, it automatically installs the viewer for you, sets up your first free region, and logs you in. And there you are on your first free region in like a couple of minutes. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to press any buttons. You can just hold your hands up in the air and wave as everything downloads and installs. It was so nice. I mean, they did such a nice job of this. Now, because of the way that the browsers work, you can't run an outside program anymore for security reasons. So now it's back the old way. You have to download the viewer, you have to type in your avatar name and password, and you have to get in World. So every extra step, every button you have to push decreases the adoption rate of a new platform, because people get called away, get bored, get sick of it, whatever. They say it's not worth it, and they go on to do something else. Or they'll say, I'll come back to this later. And that's a death knell, because every time you say, I'll come back to this later, you never do. You think you will, but you don't. So I would love to see somebody figure out a way to get this done easily again. And I think that the best way to do that is through a web-based viewer. And Pixie Viewer right now seems to be in the lead for this. But I haven't seen a lot of new developments coming out of them for a while. So I'm really worried about this. So that's one problem. Just getting into the world is hard. Then, as you mentioned, the first hour, first week, kind of of stuff that you do, you have to learn how to use the inventory, you have to learn how to walk, and you have to learn to interact with people, and I would love to see some kind of a scripted hub that automatically has to do the first few tasks slowly as you need them, when you need them. So when you first log in, it says, would you like to change your outfit? Click here, click here, click here. And then it will say, would you like to check out, our destination guide? Click here, click here, click here. And then now would you like to move around? Use your arrow buttons. And then it will say, would you like to chat with the people here? And here's how you do this. So it shouldn't be that hard to do this. And once you have it scripted, every grid can use something like this. And I strongly urge our readers to do that as a giveaway, because that would be a great little thing to promote your community, or to promote, your little mini grid, because that's an easy thing to install. If you're running your own grid, you can just have it be, activated. Obviously, in Second Life, a Linden Lab would have to do this.
Yeah.
So,
major challenge for a big company.
Yeah, but all the games I'm not saying I'm a big game player. I don't really have time to do anything except play my Sudoku and my Farmville and the 50 other games I've got on my iPhone. But they all have an easy ramp up. They all have the first few tasks they have you do are walk you through it. They walk you through the first couple of quests, or they walk you through the first couple of activities, so that you kind of have at least a feel for how the system works, or an intuitive feel for where things are. Or like you could say, so it's the menus that I look through, or it's all based on arrow keys, or it's all based on these buttons around the side.
I've noticed,
so whatever the main underlying philosophy is, it gives you a little bit of practice with it.
I've noticed on a lot of iPad apps, be they games or basically things you draw with or stuff like that, the first time you open them, there's like a transparent overlay over everything that doesn't stop you doing anything, but it's got little handwriting and an arrow saying try doing this and try doing that. And once it's there once, it doesn't come back. There you can put it up at any time. But it's that, it's like talk you through the basics, and then the menu goes away and you just fiddle the way you've been fiddling. Yeah. So.
And if you're an alt or something, you just cancel it out and it goes away.
Tara?
What I was going to say is I think one of the challenges, though, when you start talking about virtual worlds or Second Life or OpenSim, is that unlike a game, there is no backstory, there is no point, there is no fixed destination or result. And so people, you have to bring your imagination to it. And and just comprehending what it means that when you walk into Second Life, all the content you see, everything, every building, every stick of grass, every tree, every bit of clothing is user created.
Yeah.
It's a mind bender.
Oh yeah.
It's not something you get until you get in World and start looking at things, and then you start realizing, wait a minute, somebody created that.
Yeah.
It wasn't created by the game builders. It was created by another user. It's kind of like there's a whole mindset change that people have to go through.
Right. Well, Mal pointed this out. These kind of tutorials come not just with games, but with creative platforms too. It's just a different kind of. It's not your first quest, but why don't you try this kind of thing? But for a grid, for example, say I'm the owner of a new grid that's popping up, and I want to make it really easy for people to come in. What I might have them do is say, would you like to go to your new free house? And it automatically takes you to a new free house. And then it says, would you like to build something, create something new, and takes you to the backyard where you have a little sandbox where you can build stuff for yourself. And it will take you through a little tutorial. So, or would you like to go socialize in our main hangout area where it takes you through a little chat tutorial? So it gives you a couple of the most popular things you would want to do on the first grid, which is get dressed, socialize, or get a free house. And it takes you through little mini tutorials for how to do it. This cannot be that hard. I mean, it seems like something that anybody could set up. And if you're a virtual trainer out there listening to me, set this up and really get it out to the grids. It'll be a major way to promote your training services and your abilities as a creator, and would really help out OpenSim.
And I think there's a wide range there too, because depending, there's services being available targeted to different audiences. I mean, I know, for example, that when I came into Second Life, I didn't actually pay too much attention to what I was wearing. I just had some default red hair, because it had to be red, of course, and some jeans and a t-shirt. But the thing I wanted to know most was how to move and how to explore. And when I found out I could fly, I was away, just buzzing around, snooping around, looking, thinking how wonderful all this is. It goes on forever. Whereas I'm sure the first person somebody else might want to do is actually make their avatar look good and isn't actually so concerned about running off exploring at the first moment. And if somebody's coming in professionally, they want to know how to have a sort of business type woman or businessman looking avatar. Mm-hmm. If somebody's coming in socially, they want to say, how can I get a weird sort of steampunky, outrageous avatar? So different people have different requirements. So, I think there's an element, there's like a body of information there, expertise that would allow people doing that to target different audiences too. I mean, not everybody wants to join up to Second Life and have a choice of young teenage girls or contraption avatars, as I call them. They think they've got a nice little choice there. They've got 2 or 3 dozen different avatars you can choose from, but quite frankly, it's only touching the surface of what people might want. So just putting individual operations that put more thought into that stuff. And for example, if you are running like Nara's Nuke or something, well, that's probably not a good example, but all the people coming in, or your target people that you can try and bring in directly to you and show them around, are all writers. So you obviously target your introduction to what you think, at least, is the mindset of the average writer. Whereas if you're targeting fashionistas or something in Second Life, I think you'll find the mindset is slightly different. So there'll be space for a different service that targets that demographic. So it's all to the good. The more people that do things, the better. And what you're doing, Lynn, is targeting. I'm sure you're open to everybody, but you are targeting a specific demographic, which is people of a certain age who maybe don't know so much about the technology and need to have it explained what our opportunities are there.
Right. I think also the other thing I wanted to say earlier, you talked about NVIDIA creating a new card, and I think that's a very important thing, because people's computers are sometimes not as high-powered or as new as this place requires.
They never are, in my experience. Yeah. It's like Windows. You get a new computer and you think it's whiz bang, and then Windows brings out a new version and it won't run properly on because they consider you old, But no, yes. Sorry, I interrupted there. But yeah, the NVIDIA thing, I don't know how affordable it would be, of course, because NVIDIA.
That I find is difficult for people being able to see, which gives you a different view of things here. My first computer I had here, I thought that the ground where I lived was we were on sand. I did. I went out and bought all kinds of beach grasses, and one day somebody said to me, "What are you talking about? There's no sand. This is grass." My computer wasn't showing grass.
Oh, God.
So I was looking at this grass covered with beach grasses. It was very odd.
I think when I first came into Second Life, Tara probably remembers better than me as usual, but I think I was on a Mac at the time, and it was absolutely fine. I couldn't believe it all, but I remember getting a PC, that could run Second Life 2 and better graphics card or whatever. And so I thought, what have I been missing? Because you don't realize what you're missing until you see it, if you see what I mean.
It wasn't in that era. It wasn't so much that stuff wasn't visible as the Macs were seriously slower as far as downloading textures and moving around. It was harder to move around, and the Mac client was just noticeably behind the PC client. And this was also back before there were third-party viewers at all. So
yeah. That's been a big change, hasn't it? Third-party viewers. I mean, more people use Firestorm than Second Life's own viewer, and it's to think that we were once trapped with a viewer that was Lyndon Loud's viewer, and that was it. You know, it's quite.
Yeah, of course, on the other hand, if we're talking about new users, and especially older new users, and the fear factor, as soon as you start trotting out the fact that, oh, well, you can use this, this, or this, then that adds to the, you know, the panic, I suspect, for a lot of people.
That's why I really am thinking in terms of having people who work with older people be the intermediary. So I'd like to really train professionals to bring people in and kind of stick with them and be their support system while they're here. Because, you know, every time you have to download a new version of one of these viewers, it's a whole big deal to do a clean install and the whole thing. So you really need somebody, I think, and that's the person I'm really interested in bringing in and showing what's available here.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, you know, even I who know all about these things, he says, you know, I'm always too lazy to do a clean install. I want to just do the upgrade, please, and things like that, you know. And you know, I know a clean install is better, but I don't want to go through all that stuff. So, you know, sometimes you need somebody to prod you and say, "Come on, you've got to do a clean install,
or do it for you."
Yes. Oh, wish. Or
to simply stick with using if you're talking about Second Life, stick with using the official viewer. Stick your new users with using the official viewer until they've got their feet on the ground, and then introduce a possibility of other viewers depending upon what their interests are. You know, what interests are emerging. You know, once you it's kind of like, you know, you buy a brand new PC, and if somebody's brand new to the internet, and they buy a PC, well, PCs come with Internet Explorer, heaven forbid. But it's what people tend to start with if they have started with a PC. And it's only after they've been using that for a while, and then they've sort of gotten comfortable with the whole bit, that they can, you know, potentially then decide, well, let's try a different browser. And so I think the same thing very much applies to virtual worlds. Is, you know, and when it comes to OpenSim, you know, then it's a whole can of worms. Then it's you know, you have to pick a browser. But for Second Life, you know, I don't think I would ever force someone starting Second Life for the first time to use anything but the official viewer until they've been Inworld. And for one reason, you can set the official viewer up, or I think when it first downloads, to automatically update, and there's no clean install needed or any of that kind of stuff. So from a starter perspective, it's much simpler.
It's funny, you know. It seems like only recently I've heard that people get computers for the first time, and they don't really even seem to think of going on the web. They just want it for email to keep in touch with relations. And the first thing, of course, they got to learn is how to use a mouse. You know, forget anything else. You know, there is a big, you know, it's easy for people like us who've jumped into Second World who have been using computers for a long while, because we've overcome at least the you know, the interfacing with technology, even though we haven't been in 3D before, you know. So, you know, we have that advantage, but coming in completely fresh. I suspect if somebody has never touched a mouse in their life, they would find Second Life easier because they just use the arrow keys. But, you know, who knows?
Well, these things you're saying are very helpful to me, because as I said, I'm trying to really think about the best way to bring people in. So thank you for the thoughts you have here.
Oh, well, great. Yeah. That's what we're here for, to talk about.
Something else that might be useful to you to know is Second Life used to have a program where some of the Sims had their own entry setups and pathways for introducing new users, and London, UK still does and still runs that, and doesn't Ireland as well?
Yeah, I think I think Dublin does. Yeah,
Dublin Dublin also have its still
the program. The program doesn't exist anymore, but I think some of the people.
Yeah, the official program, the sponsored.
Yeah, I think those that were part of it still do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, if you want, and another one, of course, is virtual ability.
Yeah.
If you've never looked at their setup for introducing new people, I'd start there. Because
they actually were the people who brought me in here. I mean, they really encouraged me to start doing what I'm doing. So I'm very beholden to them too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, because I mean, they've really, I think particularly for users who are differently able, and I think particularly if you're talking about people who aren't computer literate already, I would kind of tend to put them in that category. That I don't think you can get too simple, because you can always get it more complicated. But if you start off too complicated and you lose someone, oops.
No,
Maria, I want to ask you one question about OpenSim, the whole area. When I hypergrid, I always lose my hair and my shoes. Why is that? What can I do about it?
There is a bug in the older version of OpenSim. It's fixed in OpenSim 0.8.0. Kitely donated the fix. So I think if you wait for an upgrade, it will be automatically fixed. The other thing you can do is create an avatar for hypergrid travel. That's always a good idea, by the way. Is if you have a travel avatar that's lightweight, that's got your basic prim hair, your basic prim clothes, everything fully licensed, where like you're the creator or the full perms, because some grids are starting to restrict travel based on permissions of the items, so that if the item,
interesting.
So Kitely has that. So if you have a Kitely avatar and you're wearing something fancy that the creator doesn't want to leave the grid, you won't be able to travel out.
Maria,
Kitely will say, sorry, you're going to have to change your clothes. Yeah.
Maria,
so I have a feeling.
I'm sad to say it's worse than that, because whilst OS Grid has been down, and I recommend OS Grid because it's a developer's grid, so it means my home hypergrid avatar is on a grid that is always up to date. When it's around, it's always up to date. Yeah. So I know it's always the latest version of OpenSim, and I find that having my home grid as an up-to-date one is very useful. But I had to go on the hypergrid safari, which I usually go to every Wednesday, but I haven't been for the last 2 weeks because 3 weeks ago, without my hypergrid avatar being available, I had to go and find my old Kitely avatar, went in there, attended the storytelling session, and then the whole group teleported out to another grid. I forget which one. I tried to teleport out of Kitely, and it says you can't leave Kitely because you are wearing non-transferable items. Right. So I get naked. Naughty me. And I figure, well, maybe I can when I get to the other grid, I can get to the OpenSim library, because I couldn't find that in Kitely either, and put more clothes on. But then, having got all my so-called kit off, it still wouldn't let me out of Kitely. It says, it told me I was still wearing copyrighted eyes. Now, for those of you who are avatars, know that you don't wear eyes. You can't just take them off. You have to find replacement eyes, and there were no replacement eyes to be found. So I eventually just quit Kitely altogether and thought, well, I'll try and fix this for next time I want to come on a safari. That restriction was a real hindrance, because I couldn't literally get back onto the hypergrid whilst I was wearing eyeballs that had somehow come from Kitely. And so, it is certainly another reason to base yourself on an OpenSim somewhere that's your home grid, that is known to be reasonably up to date, and itself doesn't have those kind of restrictions. It won't stop you teleporting into Kitely and coming out again, but it will get rid of problems like that, where you maybe have default items that are non-exportable. Eyes, indeed. I couldn't believe that. Okay, let's just move on. But everybody butt in here as needed. But going back on to some of the other news that you were going to cover, Maria. But I have a couple of other links here too. One which I've already pasted this. It's going to come over now. This is a blog that was going to. I think the writer of this blog was going to explore Winterfell, and they stumbled across something called the Queen Alice Chess Club. And I don't know about anybody else, but I've always had a fascination with not only the game of chess, but also all the symbolism that goes with it. And having seen the photos of this place, it seems like it might be well worth a visit. You can see a little preview on that blog I've just put into chat. And what was the other one? Oh, yes, another blog from Anara Play, who managed to rediscover a place called Mautoluta during the week. And there we are. That looks fairly interesting too, so I can put that away. Second life again. So, before we go off too much, of course, in discussion and stuff like that, Maria, you've already covered the sort of headline of the stuff of the week, but you did say there's some other things to bring up.
Yeah. So, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Got you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so the stats are out, and the number of regions fell by around 1,800, mostly because of OS Grid's outage. Their regions and the active user counts have gone to basically either low or zero, depending on which one. But despite that, the total number of active users on all the open sim grids still increased slightly by 300. So I thought that was interesting. But most of that increase was due to a counting change. Metropolis previously had not counted its hypergrid visitors as traffic. Even though there are active people on the grid, they came via the hypergrid instead of being local, so they weren't being counted. This month, Metropolis started counting them, and it increased their numbers by 700. So it's not a fair month-to-month comparison, is what I'm saying. Because we have
if people have been
special cases,
and either just as OS Grid stats, of course, are down because there ain't no grid at the moment. We're not always accommodating the fact that former OS Grid residents who are waiting to get back create new avatars on other grids. While they're waiting.
That too, if they haven't already, yeah. So another interesting record that was set this month was that the OpenSim software has been downloaded 6,507 times. Now, this does not mean that there are now 6,000 new grids out there. The software is also used for people to run individual regions at home, or to run business grids, or to update regions that they already have to the latest version. But I think it really says something that people are downloading this software, and we don't know. We don't know what they're using it for because it's not showing up in the stats. So I think it's very interesting.
Is that total downloads of the installation files, in the sense that some download, people go back and download each new version? So total downloads regardless of version? So
it's 2,000 downloads of the Diva distro.
Right.
It's a little over 2,000 of the standard distribution at opensimulator.org.
Yeah.
It's over 2,000 downloads of Sim on a Stick, also a new record high for Sim on a Stick.
Right. And
97 downloads of New World Studio. I'm very disappointed about New World Studio. We haven't heard anything from the owner, Olivia Battini, in ages, and an update has been promised for a long time. And New World Studio is such a wonderful, easy way to install OpenSim. I would really love to see it being more actively developed. It's an open source project, so if someone wants to take it over, this is your chance, because looks like they're really dropping the ball on this.
It's
So
funny.
altogether,
There was another version or a new version that we mentioned a few weeks ago. Are there any figures for that, by the way?
No, I don't track that. It's not a distribution of OpenSim. It's a separate version of OpenSim. It's kind of like White Core Sim.
Yeah.
But it does have a wonderfully easy installer. I love that installer. I didn't have to do anything. I just sat back and then poof, it pulled up my grid.
Yeah, it was when you mentioned New World Studio, I suddenly thought of it again because it was so smooth.
Right. Yeah. So no, in my stats, I just track just the OpenSim ones. So let's see. What was I saying? I clicked on a link and it went away. So overall, throughout its history, or at least since I've started keeping track in 2010, so the OpenSim software has been downloaded more than 200,000 times. So
right.
Yeah, so it's out there. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot considering what it is. I mean, remember, this isn't a viewer software. This is the core operating system for a virtual world.
Server software. Yeah, for people who want to run their own grids. So as usual, no big surprise there. Inworld was the #1 trafficked grid this month with over 8,000 active users. Metropolis was in second place with 2,700. Avanation was in third place with 25. OS Grid had 900 active users, but that's from the last week before it went down.
Right.
So the stats went up like a week ago. So over the first week of the month before the crash, they had about almost 900 users using the grid that week, and then of course it was gone. And Island Oasis was next with 887. I did not list the OpenSim Community Conference grid. At first I did, but then when the grid owners pointed out that it's not really a grid, it's not really an active grid. It was more like right now it's the testing area where the conference is going to be held in November, and they're doing load tests every Tuesday with a whole bunch of alts and robots and stuff.
Can I interrupt a second? Lynn, you did mention, of course, you've got a little parcel on the Avacon grid. Is that is this Avacon an Avacon hosting area, or is it on the say an extension of the region that is the conference area?
No, it's a separate grid from the grid where the conference will be held.
Right.
So it's actually for people who are, are in sort of social programs to get a parcel. So I think I have the first parcel.
Right.
Yes, Avacon is a small grid, so they don't show up in our statistics. We have over more than 200 different grids in there, so Avacon is not really one of the big social grids. They're really company grid. They're used by the organization internally. Yeah.
They could be #1 in November, but that's another story.
Right.
No, not Avacon. Avacon's a separate grid from the OpenSim Community Conference.
Right.
So two separate grids here.
Okay.
The OpenSim Community Conference probably will be in the top 10 in November because they will have the conference. For that month they'll be in the top 10. But Avacon is used internally by that organization for their own meetings and affiliated organizations and groups.
Okay.
So they're not really big shopping and party grid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing yet.
Not yet.
Although I did. There is a store where I could change my avatar's hair.
All right. Okay. So World DC is on my list for the first time, mostly because I didn't know they existed. So World DC is a Portuguese language grid, and the only reason I found out about them, and this is very ironic, is that Alexandre Pomposello, the owner of AviWorlds, emailed me and complained about their logo. That's too close to the DC Comics logo. And so he complained about them, and apparently Alex had been involved with that grid, World DC, and he was really, really annoyed about the way they were using this logo incorrectly. And I was like, World DC, I don't have them in my list. I'll add them in. And surprise, surprise, they're top 10 grid.
Oh, really?
So I have to wonder how many other big grids out there that I'm missing because they're in foreign countries, because they don't show up in the usual travels, and because this was a huge grid that I had totally no idea about,
I'm
and that's
wondering.
been around for.
Yeah, because I mean, something you notice in Second Life is how huge the Japanese community is, and I'm going to be very surprised if there aren't Japanese opens and grids.
Well, I have a couple of Japanese grids on my list, but the thing is, I don't spend a lot of time traveling on those grids, so I don't know if they have links to other Japanese grids. I don't know if there's an online Japanese grid community where they discuss Japanese grid issues, which I can't read because it's in Japanese. So, I have to ask myself, what's out there that I'm missing? If one of our viewers is involved in any of those communities, please send me a link. Give me a place to start. I can use Google Translate on it and see if I can, figure out what's going on. Okay. So, one of the nice things that it says that Avination gained almost 500 new active users. It's the second month in a row where it had high growth. So that's very interesting. It's making a comeback. Avination at one point was actually ahead of Inworld briefly, because when it was doing that big advertising campaign, but it's been slipping in the rankings ever since. So it's nice to see it getting its mojo back.
Are they getting any closer to hypergrid enabling? Because I know they did actually include this in their long-term agenda, didn't they?
Yeah, they're the ones who created the hypergrid export permission. They worked with the Singularity viewer folks to get it built in. But ironically, it looks like Inworld will be rolling it out before they do. Oh. And of course, Inworld will be using it for their ore exports, to filter those exports so people don't save ores full of proprietary non-exportable items.
Content.
So that's very interesting, yeah, but very also ironic. So coming up, the Metroberfest, Oktoberfest celebrations are going to be going on everywhere. And Metroberfest is the one on Metropolis Grid. It starts on the 29th of September on the Oktoberfest region, and of course it's all hypergrid enabled. They're going to have 11 musicians who've already been booked to perform live. 3 German authors will have live readings, as well as 2 English-speaking authors. They've got DJs. They've got fireworks on the final day. So definitely sounds like a fun time will be had. And if you get sick of the Oktoberfest parties there, hop over to Littlefield, which is also going to have its own Oktoberfest celebration. But they're starting a week early on September 20th. They'll have beer, dancing, DJs, rides, free Oktoberfest outfits, and that's going to be on the Munich region. You already mentioned Avatar Social Network. They're having a 1-year anniversary, September 27th, on Littlefield. They're going to have a party there. They're also going to have a party in Second Life a week ahead of time. And like you mentioned, they've had 70,000 posts, 30,000 photos, and 12,000 friends on their network over the past year. And they claim to be the largest social network for the virtual worlds. And I did some comparisons with Alexa and SimilarWeb to see how they rank. The only other social network I know of for virtual worlds that's in any use is Second Life Universe. And over the last few months, Avatar Social Network has been gaining ground dramatically, and they're approaching a Second Life Universe in traffic. So that's interesting. And I'm not just saying that because they're an advertiser of hypergrid business, but they are. So I should mention that. And I thank them for their support, which helps pay for hosting and freelance payments to freelance writers.
I have to be honest, I have to check them out. It's been one thing on my books is to sign up for that. Yeah.
So they stand out because they pay people for posting.
Oh.
So if you post a lot, you'll actually paid in virtual money, in virtual currency that you can spend on the grids. Also, this month, as part of the Oktoberfest celebrations, Littlefield is offering 25% land discount to members of the Avatar Social Network. So 15 regions are just $15 a month. So $20 regions are now $15 a month for Avatar Social Network members. So if you're planning to rent on Littlefield, become a member of the Avatar Social Network first, and you get $5 off. And they've also added VAR regions, so you can get a 9-region VAR region with 270,000 prims for $90. So that works out to about $10 per region. So, a pretty good deal, and of course, no border crossings. And they're not the only ones. VAR regions, I've talked about this before. They've been spreading across all the commercial grids. Virtual Highway is now offering VAR regions as well, for example. Let's see, I'm going to skip over, Kitely. So Kitely released its market numbers. They've got more than 3,000 products now and 6,000 variations. Kitely, of course, is different from Second Life in that a single product can be available in different colors from the same product page. So it's more like Amazon than like Second Life. So and they've got 2,500 of those variations are exportable to other grids, and their exports are growing faster than overall listings. So I like seeing that. Merchants are getting more comfortable with hypergrid delivery and are trusting it more. And I like that. Very much. And so I mentioned Virtual Highway is offering VAR regions now, and they've got an October deal as well going on. They're charging $90 a month for a 4-region VAR region with 40,000 prims. So 90 divided by 4 is a little like $22 a month. So it's still a good deal for a closed commercial grid. You will notice that on the open grids, the prices tend to be a lot lower than the closed commercial grids. But on the closed commercial grids, you tend to find that the grid owners are spending more effort on bringing in content and activities and, protecting content and all that other stuff that they do for that extra money. So I guess you kind of get what you pay for. All right. So we have, let's see, that's pretty much it for the monthly news roundup. So I mentioned that Aviworld is teaming up with a SkyLife grid. I talked about that already. It will be hypergrid enabled.
Yeah, I hadn't actually heard of SkyLife grid. But
yeah, they're one of the small grids. Well, this is definitely how you get on people's radar. You get involved with Aviworld. And
yes.
How everybody does it.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. Either way, whether it works out or not, SkyLife Grid is now known as the company that took a chance on Aviworld. Yeah. And if they succeed, if they're able to pull this off, if they're able to keep Aviworlds up for more than, say, 3 months, they will be considered big heroes in OpenSim land. So, and if it doesn't work out, nobody will blame them. So,
yes. They can't lose, can they?
No.
Oh dear.
All right. Okay.
Keep it up for 3 weeks. No, don't 3 months. But never mind.
Liz, to kind of fill you in on the running joke, this particular OpenSim has been up and down over a period of many months with many different service providers, and their ups and downs had become so frequent that they became known on this show as the yo-yo grid.
Yeah,
This is Aviworld.
Yes. Aviworlds, plural. Yes.
Yes, I have been to visit them several years ago.
Yeah, they started out with a very unique business model. They were going to be they have the most expensive land in OpenSim. So that didn't last long. So then they switched to a whole bunch of different, then they experimented with a whole bunch of different business models, hypergrid, on, off, so on. And then they've gone through all the major hosting options. They've been hosted with Dreamland. They've been hosted with Zeta Worlds. They've been hosted with Kitely. None of it worked out. They blame the hosting providers each time. Most recently, an email earlier today, Alex Pomposelli, the owner, told me that the reason is that the hosting providers overpromise and underdeliver. So they can't handle a big grid like his. So on the one hand, some of these hosting providers are successfully running other major grids. But also, if you're not getting the power that you need from the price that you pay, you upgrade to the next tier up. Is usually what you do with vendors. So, for example, a grid might say you could get up to 15,000 regions and up to 15,000 avatar or 100 avatars on this region, but a vendor might not say that you have to pick one or the other. You can't have both, your full prim allowance and the 100 avatars and have a billion scripts running all at the same time. You have to pick and choose. And if you want all of those, you might want to upgrade to a more powerful server. So, and this is true for wherever you go in OpenSAM, that the more powerful server you get, the more stuff you can put on it. And that's a pretty much law of physics. So that, some hosting providers can get you better deals on servers than others, maybe because they buy in bulk, or they have a particular deal with a hosting provider or a manufacturer. But in general, the more you pay for, the more you get. So if your region is running sluggish and you have a lot of stuff on it, like a lot of traffic or a lot of prims or a lot of scripts, then one thing you might consider is upgrading to the next level up. And all hosting providers out there offer multiple levels of service with a low-cost introductory layer, if you just want to play around a little bit or have a residential region, all the way up to like high-end commercial-grade regions with heavy traffic and heavy usage. So be aware of the fact that as your grid grows and you do get more usage, you might have to upgrade the service level that you're in. And don't be disappointed if you have to do that, because that's just a fact of life. I mean, you do that with websites too. A web hosting company may offer you like $2 a month for unlimited, web pages. But what they don't tell you is that if your traffic spikes once in a while, they'll cover it. But if your traffic grows constantly, they will ask you to upgrade to a bigger server. So that's pretty common.
Okay.
Now, moving on.
Oh, sorry, there is more. Okay. I'm just thinking we're nearing the top of the show, so we shouldn't linger too much on.
I'll be quick. So there's a new rival for the Oculus. It's called the Totem from Bravana, based in Canada. They've already more than a third of the way to their goal. They've got 135,000, and they're looking for 350. And this one stands out from the others, is that it's got a little camera on the front of it, and so that the camera can be used for either spatial positioning, or it can be used to give you a glimpse of what's happening outside. So it can do a pass-through view or augmented reality. So very interesting. Oculus kind of does that, but they have an external camera sitting outside that looks at you instead of having a camera right in the headset looking out at the world. So I like the Totem approach, but it stands to be seen whether it actually works or not. So, but check it out. Definitely worth contributing to it if you want to help grow the diversity of vendors in this space, which means that the more vendors there are, the more competition there is, the better innovation we're going to get, the faster prices will fall, and the better things will improve. So yay for our metaverse. The OpenSIM Community Conference is opening up its registrations. Go to the website and register for the conference. Registration is free, but there's only so many slots available for visitors because, there's only so many people that a region can hold. If they run out of slots and there's no time for you to register, you can always view it live on live stream. We're going to have streaming, and you can also visit the
It's going to be on Ustream. In fact, I think they're going to have a stream. They're going to have a stream from each strand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So everything will be live streamed, and also you can also enter the expo areas for free. There's unlimited ones, and in addition to free attendance tickets, there's also paid ones for people who want to sponsor the conference at various price points, and you get little premium benefits with each one. So check that out. And we have
including amongst those premium offers, you can have your very own RL Sim collector's prim.
Oh. I can make one of those. Yes. Where's the cardboard?
No, made out of wood.
These are made out of wood.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a wooden prim block, a meter big. Yes. Actual meter. No, that's not a meter.
Can you scale? Can I scale it up?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Kitely has released new analytics on its website. If you are a merchant, absolutely check this out. They're really cool. The graphs look really nice and cute. They're beautiful. And it offers you all kinds of data about sales, traffic sources, demos, which grids your products will deliver to, which versions people like best. It's really great, very nice. I have a couple of things listed in the Kitely market, so I checked it out. It works really easily, very simple interface, and really, really, you should check it out if you're a merchant. And Kitely has also confirmed that the market has had more than $10,000 worth of sales so far. 60% of those sales have been in U.S. dollars, and the rest in Kitely credits. Merchants can decide whether people have to pay them in Kitely credits, U.S. dollars, or both. Kitely credits are a pure fictional currency. They're not refundable, but you can use them for your own purchases or to buy land on Kitely. And the U.S. dollars are obviously fully redeemable. You can just take them out via PayPal. Some merchants have made more than $2,000 in sales on Kitely. So they've got a documentation page up, and so far it looks like people are very happy. Elon Tochner said that they also plan to expand to other metaverse platforms. They're not just going to keep it OpenSim specific. They also plan to be adding delivery to high fidelity when that's available. And they're getting involved in high fidelity development, and I think they've donated some kind of patch to the high fidelity project as well. So if you're a merchant and you want to have the maximum kind of options open for your product, you want to sell meshes to high fidelity, then it looks like a Kitely market is a place where you can try that out.
I must say, high fidelity seems to be speeding along at the moment in terms of people working with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So, moving very fast indeed. So we are all excited about that. And of course, at the conference, we're going to be hearing from Philip.
Yeah, and of course, sure. I've already mentioned ZetaMex has a new CEO, and they've changed their pricing. So the lowest price regions, they were 10 avatars and 75,000 prims. And they used to cost $3 a month. They will cost $5 a month as of November 1st.
They have grandfathered the old accounts, though, haven't they?
Yes, they have grandfathered all accounts and new customers. So if you rush out now, before November 1st, and get your $3 regions, they will stay at $3 for the life of your region. So to save those $2, run over to the ZetaMex
or indeed to get
website.
a better deal, for the $5 version, etc., etc.
Yes. So the $5 version is going up from $5 to $750, and that's 15,000 prims.
Yeah.
And the $750 version is going up to $15 a month, and that's for 45,000 prims.
Yeah.
Okay. And similarly, their simulator plans are also going up. The lowest priced one for 20,000 prims is going from $15 to $20 a month, and this supports VAR regions. So, for example, you can have for $20, you can have 4 regions set up as a VAR region, and 20 divided by 4. That's $5.
Right. To go off, we're getting into a lot of detail here, so I'm sure people can look this up.
Yeah.
How we mentioned, the other source for cheap grid space being this Canada grid. Do you have any stats on their population and activity as a grid over and beyond this?
I will get that for you in a second.
Yeah.
And while that's pulling up, I want to point out that, like you said, the Oculus Connect conference is heading on.
Yeah.
And the Oculus made the DK1 Oculus Rift open source.
Oh.
So anyone can basically download all the instructions how to make their Oculus Rift and use it to make a new competing product. So I thought that was really, really very interesting.
And the fact that the sort of app marketplace they want to promote, a new thing, a platform instead of share, I think they're calling it, is geared to widening the whole range of software that would be available to use with Oculus and other things, I guess. Just that it's not fixed to the gaming crowd or prototypes of things, can widen the variety of software that can be developed for it.
And I got the info on the Great Canada Grid. They have 19 regions, and they had 128 visitors, unique visitors last month. They're a new grid, so they're a startup grid, and it looks like they're actively pushing to grow bigger. So if you want to be in on a grid that's growing, I think that they seem to be like a good fit. And
lots of Canadians in virtual worlds. Well, I'm thinking Second Life here. I used to get them confused with Americans, the similarity of accent. But I realised how many Canadians I've known in World. So
you have to ask yourself, how many Americans are passing themselves off as Canadians these days, just to avoid dealing with the political fallout of being known as Americans?
Being known as American. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, well, let me move on because we're really closing up on time here a bit. So, what I did mean to prompt you while we're still vaguely on that subject is OS Grid. I did read in the week, apart from the new fundraising and donation drive to help them out, that they have enough money apparently to finish the not the recovery process of the disk, but some I think it's to do with the cloning aspect. In other words, getting the data and cloning it, and they have some money in reserve, but what they're really angling at now is if they can't recover enough from the cloning operation, they will need to take it further, and that's where they really need more funds. But if the cloning operation works, then they could be online again before too long.
Yeah, so the deal with them, and the information has come out about their technical deals, is that they have, we talked about the RAID a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
And this is a way of storing things that either have a mirror or have a backup on the drives. And they had both. They had RAID 10, which is a high-end system for doing this. So they had both mirroring and they had cloning, and they had basically for the price that they were paying, this was like the best thing that they could get for their huge database, which is something like 3 terabytes in size. So now with a database this big, making an offline backup somewhere else will take a full day just of the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And when you use up all the available bandwidth, and people still have to log into the grid and do stuff there.
Yeah.
So they decided to go with RAID 10 because it's a very stable, reliable system. And of course, it had a catastrophic fail on these drives. So what they're going to be trying to do is they're going to see if one of those mirror drives survived by copying it over to
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
drive. And if it survives, they've got enough money to pay for it. They've got like $3,000 in the bank, and they can pay for it. If they have to do a manual recovery of these drives, then that will cost more.
Yeah. So it's touch and go, really. If recovering the mirrors works, then they might be back sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it may take a bit longer. Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I really want people to encourage people to donate, so they can upgrade their regular monthly systems, so that they can pay for the extra bandwidth for the extra backups. And so they didn't want to switch to the next more expensive tier, because if they don't know if they're going to have donations coming in to pay for it or not, they're going to be in trouble if the donations are all one-off donations. So really, if you're going to be donating, make a one-off donation to help with this recovery, to help buy them the hardware that they need. But then to pay for the ongoing bandwidth and hardware, sign up for a monthly subscription plan. So you give them $10 a month or $5 a month, or whatever you can afford.
It's an ongoing,
to help.
An ongoing contributory thing. I like the idea that other grids are, like the Rock are sort of leading the way here, and sort of bringing the community funding side of it.
That was really nice. Yeah. That's really nice thing Third Rock Grid did.
Okay. Right. Well, to get to our last minute items, I'm not sure whether this is an OpenSim viewer, a Second Life viewer, or both, but there is another viewer that I've updated this week called the You Can Do viewer. And I'm pasting a link over now from an Our Pace blog, so you can find out about that a little bit more. The next link coming over is Second Life specific, but I thought it was kind of interesting. It's from SL News' blog, and this is about the Vinyl Museum. It's a club in Second Life for lovers of classic rock. And all those old rock and rollers probably have a vested interest in that sort of music. It's been a while since we've had Safia Widdershins on this show, but last time she was here, she was telling us it was going to be a complete overhaul of Print Perfect magazine. And of course, Designing Worlds is back in its new season now. Safia's no doubt very busy with the Home and Garden Expo, but indeed, the 52nd issue, dated April. Well, I don't know why it's dated April 14th. This must be a misprint. But the first new edition of Print Perfect is actually online now. And I'm going to give you the link. I think you'll find that this is the recent edition and actually not the April one. I think they've got a typo here. I'll tell you why I think it's the new one is because it's now square. Instead of magazine size, it's a new formatted square, and you can tell that from the moment you open the page. So that's a link for a new edition of Print Perfect. And for those of you who don't know that magazine, it's a sort of flipbook online magazine, although you can get it in World too. Very glossy sort of magazine thing, and it covers all aspects of art and design and stuff in Second Life. A wide berth for sort of creative aspects of Second Life. Now, this is another thing that I missed at the beginning, so I better put it in now. And I don't know whether you know of this one, Maria, in fact, but this was an article at Engadget saying MIT, this is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, can turn your smartphone into a different kind of second screen. Now, on the surface, I thought this was all about using a screen to control your television and stuff like that. But when I actually looked deeper into this, it actually seems to be a system where you'll be able to use your Wi-Fi, your local Wi-Fi, to connect things like your smartphone or iPad over Wi-Fi to, a desktop computer or something like this. Now, there's nothing new in that itself, but what they seem to come up with is the idea that you'll be able to use your pad or your phone as a game controller. In other words, you could do away with using keyboard and mouse or whatever if necessary, and you'll be able to actually hold in your hand your pad or whatever to use it as a game controller. And it's not specific to any piece of software. The idea here seems to be that this Wi-Fi technology would literally allow you to interactively control your main workstation. So we're not talking about sitting down with an iPad and navigating Second Life on the television set, but we are actually talking about having an iPad in your hand or something and being able to do things in Second Life or OpenSim that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do easily now without using keyboard and mouse. So it actually looks like this technology has a lot of uses, but in demonstrating them, they inadvertently sort of showed the way it could be used with immersive environments and games at the same time. So I thought that was an interesting link, and I did paste it in, didn't I? Yeah. And yeah. Yes, I think that was the main things I had there. Yeah. So anyway, we are sort of there are a load of links I've got here, but I can't paste them all in and cover them all since we're running a bit late now anyway. So maybe I'll cover some of them next time. So I'm going to go to the usual bits at the end of the show, and that's just go around everybody here individually and ask them if there's anything else they'd like to add or anything in particular they're looking forward to in the forthcoming week, or even highlights of the last week that they haven't yet mentioned. And I'll start with Lynn since she's our guest. Oops, where's my camera? It's not moved. There we are. And I imagine you're dying to get off because we thought you'd have gone long before this. So, but yeah, anything else on your mind exciting at the moment, or yeah?
It was such an interesting conversation. I didn't want to leave. See.
Yeah.
So I do want to say that I have given you a link for people who like to come to Inspiration Island, which is also in Second Life on the maps.
Right.
And that next Sunday, we're going to have our monthly fair day where we really give tastes of all the programs, or many of the programs that we have. And we have a main attraction, which will be the Shanghai Sisters Fire Show.
Oh,
and our theme next Sunday, is Minds Afire.
Oh,
so everybody will be doing something in relation to that.
Is that all day or a specific time? Or
There are different programs all day long, and there's a schedule that you can get from a big sign right on the fairgrounds there.
It's a good job I didn't invite you next Sunday, isn't it? You'll be very busy indeed.
I know it is.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. I love the Shanghai Fire Sisters.
But people can just drop in to various things and taste them, and then come back for a regular program during other times.
Yeah, wonderful.
So thank you again and thank you all. It's lovely to meet you.
Well, it's absolutely great having you here, and I think we got covered that. There's so much you could do standing there talking in front of screens and demonstrating too. So it's nice to I think it always added touch when you just engage in the conversation. It tells us much more about the spirit of what you're doing, and in the context of other things too. So it's been great to have you, and maybe we'll have you back again at some point.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think I dare ask Maria. Anything else?
No, I'll let it go. Just want to remind people that if they want to send me a press release, please do. Maria@hypergoodbusiness.com. So I'm here. I don't know about things unless if somebody tells me.
Indeed. No, None of us do. This is the problem. So in addition to that, of course, do check out hypergridbusiness.com because there's new tongue twister, new news posted there virtually every day, several articles a day, except on the quiet weeks. And you can follow Maria on Twitter too, for that matter. So Tara, closing thoughts.
Well, my only closing thought is we haven't wished everyone a happy first day of fall or autumn, if you prefer.
Oh,
it's a little hard to imagine, and based on my RL Sim weather today, where it looks like we get one more day of over 80-degree temperatures, which is really ridiculous for the Pacific Northwest. This has been an amazing summer and an amazingly long stretch of really good weather we've had this year. Anyway, the rains are returning the end of this week, I hear. So anyway, happy official arrival of fall.
Well, great. I didn't actually know that. So, London, where I am, is UK, is pretty much the same. We're still in distinctly summer temperatures. I don't think we're at 80, but we are told that autumn won't arrive to about November the 5th. So, whether I can believe what I'm told, is another matter. But I won't go. I certainly won't complain. Better the heat than the cold, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, well, with that, I think it's time to wrap up the show and bring it to a close. As always, great conversation, and sort of the moment we're wrapping up, I suddenly think of 1,000 more things that we could have discussed but didn't get round to. But we will next week. We will be back at the same time, same place, and different subjects and different guests and the usual sort of thing. A reminder that if you want to watch this show in replay, you can find a nice high resolution copy, which is compatible with every platform you've ever thought of, i.e. tablets, phones, televisions, everything. You'll find that at slartist.com. That's SLARTIST, and archives of all our previous shows, going back quite some time at least, are up there for your perusal too. So you've got no excuse not to watch us 24 hours a day, every day of the week, actually, if you really want to. I can't tell you what's coming up next week because we simply don't know. So I will just thank my guests again. Great to have them here as always. And we will return. Just a bit like the end of the James Bond movies. It says, James Bond will return. Well, we will. We will return. Bye for now.